Hi everyone, welcome back to Alice and the Giant Bookshelf. Today we're going to be going to some Brighton bookshops and there's a little bit of a book haul as well. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. My name's Alice and I have way too many books. But despite that, my husband and I thought we would like to go on a trip to Brighton recently, and I thought I would take you with me and show you some of the bookshops of Brighton that I found. Now, Brighton is not a place that I've ever been book shopping before. There is a big Waterstones and there are also a couple of good independent bookshops and also a few second-hand bookshops. So in the next few clips I'm going to be showing you some of the bookshops of Brighton that we visited, and at the end I'll be back to show you what I bought, because there may have been a tiny book haul, but only because I wanted to support some independent bookshops in Brighton, and lo and behold they had some books that I was interested in getting hold of. First we visited Goldsborough Books, which also has a branch in Cecil Court in London. They specialise in first editions and signed books and had a very interesting selection of older first editions. Next up was Waterstones. The Brighton branch is very central, right by Brighton's clock tower. It has 5 floors of books and a cafe. If you walk down Weston Road to Hove, you will find the lovely independent bookshop that is City Books. This one has 2 floors and a great selection of new books. This shop has been shortlisted twice for the Independent Bookshop of the Year award. Back in Brighton, we visited the North Lanes, home to an Oxfam bookshop. This had a great selection of second-hand books. Dave's Comics is a fantastic shop full of graphic novels in the front section and manga in the back. There was also a room full of Funko Pops. This independent shop is definitely worth a visit for graphic novel readers. Books for Amnesty is another charity bookshop with a great selection. This one had art books in a back room. The final second-hand bookshop of the day was Raining Books. I have never visited such a chaotic bookshop. The books are all stacked on the shelves and tables upstairs with spines not facing outwards and no discernible system for finding a book. Downstairs, books cascade onto the floor in heaps. Even a hoarder like me found this a bit much, and I felt like the books needed a bit more care and order. After a break and a drink by the sea, we took a leisurely walk to the Kemptown area of Brighton to find the Kemptown Bookshop. This was my favourite shop of the day. An independent bookshop with a great range of fiction, children's and non-fiction. You can sit and relax both upstairs and in the basement. Upstairs has a lovely place to work or read, and they invite you to bring a coffee with you to this space. Downstairs in the basement is a wonderful children's book section with seats to relax on. Although a bit further to walk, I would definitely recommend making time to visit this delightful shop if you are in Brighton. So as you've hopefully just seen in the clips, we went to all of the bookshops that we could get to on the day we went in Brighton. Yeah, and I did buy some books. The first book buy was in a bookshop in Hove called City Books. And City Books is an independent bookshop, which I very much enjoyed browsing, and my husband kindly bought me a new book there. So the book that I chose, which you may have seen in the clip already, was Sea of Tranquility by Emily St John Mandel. And this is a special signed limited edition with very exciting sprayed edges. I don't know if you can see those. Really beautiful cover. The end papers are lovely in turquoise as well. And this is signed by the author. And my husband has bought me this one as an anniversary present. So couldn't really say no to acquiring this book. But yeah, I'm really excited to read this at some point because I really loved Station 11 by Emily St John Mandel, and I haven't got to any of her other books yet, and this one sounds kind of strange, but I like the sound of it. So it says, in 1912, 18-year-old Edwin St Andrew crosses the Atlantic, exiled from English polite society. In British Columbia, he enters the forest, spellbound by the beauty of the Canadian wilderness, and for a split second, all is darkness. The notes of a violin echoing unnaturally through the air. The experience shocks him to his core. 2 centuries later, Olive Llewellyn, a famous writer, is travelling all over Earth, far away from her home in the second moon colony. Within the text of Olive's best-selling novel lies a strange passage. A man plays his violin for a change in the echoing corridor of an airship terminal as the trees of a forest rise around him. When Gaspari Jacques Roberts, a detective in the black-skied night city, is hired to investigate an anomaly in time, he uncovers a series of lives upended. The son of an English aristocrat driven to madness, a writer trapped far from home as a pandemic ravages Earth, and a childhood friend from the night city who, like Gaspari himself, has glimpsed the chance to do something extraordinary that will disrupt the timeline of the universe. Perceptive, poignant, and incredibly compelling, Sea of Tranquility is a virtuoso performance, a novel that investigates the idea of parallel worlds and possibilities and plays with the very line along which time should run. So that's definitely a book I'm very interested in reading. Sounds like some similar themes from Station 11 and some different ones. I also picked up in City Books a couple of exciting looking bookmarks, which were free. So yeah, I just liked those, so picked them up. The next shop where I bought a book was actually Dave's Comics, which is a graphic novels shop, which hopefully you would have seen a clip of. It's a really great shop. They have lots of Funko Pops and things in the back, and manga, but also sort of comic books and graphic novels. And in there I decided to buy Buffy the Vampire Slayer graphic novel. So this is Legacy Edition Book 1. And collects together comics apparently that are set in season 3, probably my favourite ever series of Buffy. I do have an upcoming video idea about Buffy the Vampire Slayer books, which I mentioned in a previous video have been my favourite trashy TV tie-in books of all time. So I couldn't resist getting a Buffy comic as well. And yeah, really looking forward to diving into this one. It's got some really interesting art in here. So yeah, looking forward to that one, and that was from Dave's Comics. Next, the only second-hand book I bought in the day was from just the most crazy bookshop I think I've ever been in, which was called Raining Books, and you would have seen the footage, but it's just literally piles and piles of books. I don't know how you would actually find anything, especially downstairs. Downstairs was like just books as far as the eye could see, but in no discernible order. I don't think I could actually cope with that sort of a setup in a bookshop. But as soon as I walked in through the door, the first thing I saw on top of a pile was a Daphne du Maurier book, and it was a Daphne du Maurier book I'd actually never heard of, The Flight of the Falcon. I decided to get this as a very sort of old edition with kind of sprayed edges, even though I didn't think that was a thing back then, but it's a very sort of vintagey retro edition. I think this is actually a US edition as well, and I've not heard of this book, but I just thought it sounds interesting. I've liked the Daphne du Maurier I've read so far, and I thought, why not pick up a more obscure Daphne du Maurier and try it? So I did. So this was only a couple of pounds in Raining Books, and I definitely couldn't face looking through the books for much longer. So I'm glad I found this on entry to the shop. And finally, we took a long walk down to Kemptown in Brighton and went to the Kemptown Bookshop. This was my absolute favourite bookshop of the trip. It was beautiful in there. It has a lovely upstairs where you can sit down and bring your coffee in and read books and write and that sort of thing. And it had a lovely downstairs children's section, which was lovely and cool, and you could relax down there a little bit if you wanted to. So really liked it in there, and we ended up making one more purchase, which is a purchase I'm a little bit scared of. So in my Garb August tag video, I talked about a book that I didn't read before I was old enough to read, but I definitely read it when I was too sensitive to read it. And that was The Midnight Club by Christopher Pike, a famous sort of teen horror author from, I think, like the 80s, 90s and so on. And I found this new edition of the same terrifying book, The Midnight Club by Christopher Pike. Apparently this is being adapted for Netflix, which I didn't know, and will be out in October. And I thought, why don't I buy this book that absolutely terrified me, that had me up all night, upset? Why don't I read it again as an adult? And then maybe even compare it to the TV series. So yeah, I'm kind of scared, but kind of excited. I might even read this month because it will not take me long unless I have a bit of a meltdown and can't sleep and can't read it. I have to get it out of the house. Hopefully it won't be as scary to a 30-odd-year-old as it was to maybe a 13, 14-year-old. I seem to remember my parents banned me from reading Christopher Pike for a little while after this one because I was so upset. And I don't think it's upsetting because of monsters. I think this one's upsetting because it kind of is about death. It's set in a hospital for terminally ill adolescents, and it's about 5 young people who meet every evening at midnight to share terrifying stories. And I'm not sure if it was the terrifying stories that got to me or the concept that they were all dying quite young. And it says some are invented, some are true. The strangest are somewhere between the two. The club members make a pact. Whoever dies first will try to contact the others from beyond the grave. The most incredible of their stories is about to begin. The original novel from a master of the horror genre, now adapted for Netflix. So I will be very interested to read this again and see if I can cope with it. I will also be very interested to read this again and then watch the Netflix TV series in October and see how they compare. So that could be another video coming to you in October. But yeah, The Midnight Club was my final purchase of the day. So yeah, a book haul of 4 books, which was not ideal as I only really put myself back on a book buying ban last week after I'd filmed my giant TBR update. So yeah, this hasn't really done any good to the giant TBR. Books can get bought if you go to Brighton and look at their bookshops. So that's all for my Brighton book shopping and book haul video. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please do give it a like. Please do consider subscribing if you haven't already. Do comment down below, have you read any of these books? Have you been to any of these bookshops? And I will hope very much to see you all again soon for another video all about books here on Alice and the Giant Bookshelf. Bye for now.